This is episode number 49 of The Inspiring Talk, the best of The Inspiring Talk podcast. Welcome guys to The Inspiring Talk. My name is Vijay Gautam. I'm host for this show. Each week I interview today's most successful and inspiring personalities to help you realize your inner potential. Welcome guys to yet another episode of the Inspiring Talk podcast. Since we are celebrating 1 year of the Inspiring Talk podcast, on this episode, I'm presenting you the best of the Inspiring Talk. These are shorter clips of particular questions that I have asked to the guest of this podcast throughout the year and found the answers that are interesting and very useful. So sit back and enjoy the best of the Inspiring Talk, and you will learn from mindset to mentors to making money and failures and lot more. So let's get started. The first one is from episode number 5, where best-selling author of the book Unveil the Incredible You, Manish Pharasi, talks about creating long-lasting change. We often start some habit with huge motivation, but eventually we give up on that. Manish shares his insights on how we can create this long-lasting change and also about forming a stronger belief system. Here we go. Many a times, change doesn't last longer. People tend to fall back into their own habits after a few days or maybe even months. Why change so hard? Is there a way that one can build lasting permanent change?
Yeah, so Vijay, one thing which has worked in favor is that the latest research in neuroscience has shown that our brain is plastic. This has busted the age-old myth that our personality cannot change beyond age, our habits cannot be changed because they get very strongly programmed in our mind. But this latest research says that you can change at any point in time. Now, the key for a lasting change is repetition. Now, things will not happen that if you do it once, it will get stationed, because how are habits formed in a brain? It's like, let's say if you, assume there is a field full of grass. And if you start walking on a certain path continuously for many days, you will see that the grass gets vanished from there
and a path is formed.
Path is formed. So if you daily walk on that path, the path gets formed. Similar is the structure with our brain, that if you repeat something which you want to get to, then it forms those strong neural pathways in your brain, and that becomes automatic. So your behavior becomes automatic. And now the key for that is that you should start very small. Now, like habits, like if you say that I want to build my body from next day, and you say I will exercise for 1 hour. Now it becomes you need a very strong willpower because that habit is ingrained. Instead, you say that I will do just 2 push-ups from tomorrow. So you don't need any willpower for that. You may start, you will say, okay, it's 2 push-ups. You will end up doing 10, 20. Similarly, if you want to become an author, don't say I will write 10 pages from tomorrow. Just say I will write 50 words from tomorrow or 20 words. It doesn't need any willpower. So that's how you start building your small habits, which you want. Let's say you want to reach a certain personality, you want to develop certain habits. So start very small so that you don't need enough willpower. And as you repeat, your pathways in your brain get stronger, and your change which you want to bring into yourself also gets stronger. So I would say repetition and starting small are the keys for a lasting change.
Starting small and repeating. That's a great insight out there. I have also faced the same kind of problem in my life as well, that, I have not been able to keep up with the habits that I would love keeping with myself, and I would love continuing those habits, be it exercising, be it writing, or be it creating content out there. Starting small has always worked for me, because if I think of starting something big and finishing everything at one time, it not only overwhelms me but also prompt me to quit that as soon as possible, because each one of us are frightened of change, and we don't want to bring change in our life. You also talk about choosing empowering beliefs in your new book, Unveil the Incredible You. What role does having a strong belief or negative belief have in one's success or failure? You can give some examples if you can think of them now.
Yeah, sure. Actually, beliefs are the real foundations because beliefs drive your actions. So let's say if I have a belief that I cannot become a good writer, let's say if that is the belief, what will it trigger? Let's say I don't believe I can be a writer. I will never even attempt becoming a writer. Or I believe that I cannot be a good speaker. I always lose confidence when I'm talking to people. So I would never even try. So this is how beliefs actually govern your day-to-day behavior because beliefs result in action and action give you results. And if your results are bad, they just reinforce that belief. Let's say if you say that you have a belief that I am a very bad speaker, I cannot speak in front of a crowd. So let's say even if you get an opportunity someday, that is always running in your mind is, oh, I'm not a good speaker, I'm not a good speaker. And when you actually,
So you are gonna avoid
yeah,
that.
and when you, even if you don't avoid, you are asked to speak, your performance will be bad because you are nervous, you're thinking, I can't speak. So what happens? Your result is bad, then it reinforces that belief. So on the other hand, if you have a belief that, yeah, first thing is just start question what is the basis of that belief because you will find that 95% of these limiting beliefs had a reason which was outside of you. It was either your elders who told you, your teachers, your parents, your environment. So it was not something which you have experienced yourself. It is what the environment, your conditioning has forced upon in your mind. So that is the basis of forming those beliefs. There is an example of if you have seen a big elephant, if you see in a zoo, they are tied with a small rope, and you will find that why is the elephant not breaking that rope and running away? But the reason is when that elephant was a small baby, it was tied with a strong iron chains in its leg, and whenever it tried to escape, it got hurt. So the belief which got ingrained in the elephant's mind was, no, there is no point in attempting, I cannot free myself. So over a period of time, even when they've reduced that to a small rope, the elephant doesn't even attempt. So
Hmm.
a limiting belief leads to inaction, and inaction is the biggest enemy of achievement.
That was pretty good insights from Manish Pharasi. On episode 7, I had conversation with digital entrepreneur Kiruba Shankar. I have asked him what stops most people from jumping into the world of entrepreneurship. Here's his reply.
I think just the insecurity. It's almost like jumping into the deep end of a swimming pool. The fear is always, oh my goodness, what if I drown?
Hmm.
But 99% of the people they jump in, they will find a way to stay afloat, and they will learn swimming very quickly. So same thing with life. I think it is just that uncertainty. Plus, working for a job and getting a regular salary also puts you in a state of lull, in a state of comfort.
Mhm.
When you're already, when you have that comfortable life, then why would you want to get into a life that is full of uncertainty, right? So I think that's what stops many people from taking the hard route.
Is there the fear of failure, or they are too afraid that what if I drown and fail? I think that's I also believe that that's one thing that stop people from taking actions.
It's also the fear of it's the fear of taboo. It's the fear of what others think. It's the fear of what the society will make out of you. Because India as a society actually comes very hard on failure. People look down upon people who fail. So people don't want to be seen as failure. I think that's the greater intimidation for people to step into entrepreneurship.
Fear of taboo and fear of failure are two things most people are afraid of before taking the leap of faith into entrepreneurship. Next, I had Chitra Jha, author of the book The Art and Science of Meditation. She talks about managing the continuous inner chat within our head. Why, do you think it is necessary to stop inner chatter that is going on our head 24/7, and why it is necessary to do some serious interrogation within ourselves?
So today I don't even advocate stopping that chatter. Today my work is about understanding that chatter. And I give this example all the time that say I have eaten something and something has got stuck between my teeth and my tongue will keep going there. So my tongue is, I cannot say now the tongue should not go there. The tongue is only telling me that something is stuck here. Please take some action to remove it. So similarly, when I sit in meditation or I do any introspective practices and some thoughts come, for me that mental chatter which comes is just kind of leading me into that this area of your life, looking into. It requires some deeper work there, That is where, so for me it is like earlier when I began meditation, and the traditional way of meditation is that let the thoughts come, let the thoughts go. You just don't pay attention to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just kind of let them come, let them go, let them come, let them go, and you're just observing. So today I call that passive meditation. For me, the active meditation is what I do now is okay, where is my mind leading me to? What kind of thoughts are coming? What needs more looking into? So I
Mm-hmm.
would rather go there and take action there. So today my understanding is that like in the traditional system, the understanding is I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the spirit. But today, my understanding is that I am also the body, I'm also the mind, I'm also the spirit, and I so trust the design, the human design, that nothing is out of place. Nothing is, which should not be there. If it is there, it has a purpose. And I have to now look into that purpose. So, why these thoughts are coming? What is their purpose? Where do they want me to pay attention to? That is what it is, how my work has become different from the traditional work.
Mm-hmm. But again, there are so many thoughts coming at one particular time. So don't you think it's so hard, or maybe it's a tedious job to address all of those thoughts coming in our head?
Absolutely. So thoughts have a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say that you close your eyes, but keep a pen and paper next to you. And moment the thoughts come, just write down the pattern, just the theme of the thoughts. Again, close your eyes. Again, sit. Let some thoughts come. Write down the pattern. And if you start doing that, you will realize that initial thoughts are always about, they are like surface thoughts, surface things that you have to do. There are your everyday activities or some chores that you have to do. Those are the surface thoughts which will come first. And if you have taken them out, then the thoughts, then you go deeper. And some deeper thoughts will come, some kind of concepts will come, some kind of. So, like that, you keep going deeper. And finally, the insights come, the wisdom comes. So, but that can only happen. I mean, right now, when I'm saying this, it's like theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it and you realize that, oh my God, there is so much wisdom inside me, once I have gone deeper into my thoughts. So, thoughts are not our enemies. Thoughts are just kind of telling me that right now I'm so much on the surface that I just, need to handle so many things, so I'm on the surface. But there is wisdom underneath. But besides that, even the surface thoughts, it's not like that they are just there. They are also telling me that I am kind of too stuck in too many things. Maybe I'm too controlling. Maybe I'm minding others' business too much. Maybe so. It's like it leads you into insights into your own nature, your own psyche, which is a huge wealth.
Yeah, I think understanding yourself and
Yes. So
where the thought.
yes, it's a huge wealth, and unless I understand that, I cannot really, settle down into the calm waters. So there is I would say, a mismatch between, the traditional ways, because traditionally, who sat in meditation? Not the householder, the ascetic or the person, the monks or people who have kind of renounced the world. They sat in meditation traditionally, the yogis. For them, that was like, the way of life. Today, or maybe for some, decades now, we say the householder should also sit in meditation. The householder should also calm their mind. And that's perfectly fine. But the thing is, the householder also has many, many things on his mind. unlike the yogi or the monk, or so those thoughts will be there. So we cannot kind of say, okay, there should not be any thoughts on the day one itself. So the understanding what kind of thoughts I think, and kind of looking at those thoughts as I call them, is it my business, or is it somebody else's business, or is it God's business? So if I put my thoughts on the table and I say, okay, if it is my business, then I have to go deeper into this subject. If it is somebody else's business, I just have to leave this business, let the person handle it. And if it's God's business, and I have to just completely trust that God is taking care of it. So by looking at our thoughts in this manner, as it is, I've cut down so many thoughts.
That was pretty good insight. Next one is from Akshay Nanavati, author of the book Fearvana. He talks about overcoming your fears. You have taken adventure sports as a therapy, or you may like to call as a tool to overcome your fears. And it seems to me all you are trying to do is push your limits and throw yourself into face of fears. Can you share some insights about throwing yourself into face of fears to overcome them?
Yeah, the more you do these things that test your limitations, that push you outside your comfort zone, the more you grow in confidence, the more your mind, body, spirit enhances to the next stage of your personal evolution. That's how you grow. That's how you find happiness. And that's why outdoor, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to climb mountains in the Himalayas. You don't have to ski across the polar ice cap like I did, but find your path, whatever it may be. That's my avenue for my growth. But as long as you push yourself beyond your own perceived limitations, that's when you grow. And that's ultimately also how you find happiness. It's in that process of overcoming one challenge at a time, because when you go through a moment where one party you wants to quit something, the other wants to fight, and you're uncomfortable and you're struggling and you're suffering, and you rise above that, that'll be the greatest moment you've ever experienced in your life. And that's why I do these things, because it's how I have the energy I have. It's how I have the passion, the fire, the enthusiasm for life that I have today is because of doing these things. And any confidence I might have today is because a result of having overcome one or mastered one fear at a time, overcome one limitation at a time, to keep growing, to keep evolving into a better self than I was yesterday.
It's pretty fascinating to see how we can overcome to this kind of fears when we at least start with them, even it is the smallest thing that we do. For instance, if we are struggling to have conversation with strangers and we really are afraid to talk to them, then you don't have to go and make a whole conversation. Just begin with saying hi, or even maybe just giving a smile, and at least do that and conquer that first, and then go ahead about that. I love that.
Exactly. I love the way that you put it, like you want to take small risks at a time. I wasn't somebody who always used to do these things. In fact, when I was a child, I was terrified of like those big giant Ferris wheels, I was terrified of everything. So wherever you're at, you're in your life right now, it's okay. There's no right or wrong about it. And just whatever your line of risk is, just push it one step at a time. There's no, you don't have to go crazy. If you're not able to run a marathon, run 1 mile, right? Whatever it may be. The point is just work through your level of risk one step at a time and keep climbing that ladder, just one tiny little step at a time.
So, and you talk about a method called LMNOP method to overcome fear in your book. Would you please share in brief about this method?
Sure. So the method is to essentially handle any emotion that might be coming in your way. It can be fear as well. So the first thing you do, the L, is label and language. You label the emotion, and that's as simple as saying, okay, I'm afraid, or I'm anxious, I'm stressed, whatever it may be. And neuroscience has shown when you label the emotion, it reduces activity in the emotional parts of your brain and increases activity in the part of your brain related to focus and awareness. So that way you can separate yourself from the emotion and decide what to do with it. So that's L is label. The second part of the L is language, where you shift your body language. You adopt a body language of power. So instead of slouching and feeling weak, you stand tall, feel powerful. So L is label and language. The next step is M. Ask yourself, what is the meaning that's created X emotion? Where our brain is always finding meanings to things. So you're digging deep now to find what that meaning is, the subconscious meaning that's kind of being automatically created. Afraid I'm falling. But what is the meaning to the fear as well? What's the meaning to the emotion? Because you might make the emotion mean that you're weak. Oh, I'm afraid means I'm weak. So you're asking yourself, what is the meaning? You're understanding that unconscious meaning. The next step is the N. N is where you say, this is not me. This is just my brain beyond my control. But I am not my brain, and my brain is not me. This is when you're separating yourself from what's happening in your brain and getting that higher level of awareness about who you are and deciding who you want to be ultimately. And then that brings to the next step, which is the O. O is you opt for a new meaning. This is when you create an empowering meaning to the event and the emotion, so you're not letting that old subconscious meaning defeat you and stop you from taking purposeful action in the face of this emotion that's holding you back. And finally, P is purpose and preemptive strikes. So purpose is where you take an action in line with that higher purpose. So if you're standing on the edge of a cliff ready to go bungee jumping, it means leaping, right? That's the action to change your patterns from before. And preemptive strikes is when you preemptively prepare for obstacles you know will show up. So you plan ahead of time by writing down in detail, I know that at this time, I know, for example, if I'm standing on my computer, I'm about to write my book, I know I'm going to get anxious. So I'm going to plan ahead of time for that. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write for just 10 minutes the first time I do it, right? I'm going to do it at 5 p.m. So you're planning in detail how you're going to overcome the obstacle because you're prepared for it. You know it's going to show up. And studies have shown when you do that, it actually improves your chance of success by 3 times. So, and that's what the LMNOP steps are. It's one of the most powerful tools I've created. It's been really helpful for people I work with as well as for me as well. So it's a really invaluable tool to help you master your fears and rise above them.
LMNOP method to overcome your fear is very powerful method. I love this. Next one is from Melissa Monte. She talks about navigating through difficult situations in your life. One thing that I want to know from you is about making a shift of mindset, right? So how can one start the mindset shift from being a victim of situation that they actually went and to, actually thrive and grow even more stronger after that particular situation or that kind of particular obstacle that they face in their life?
I think the most important thing to do is ownership. A lot of people want to place the blame, and it's very easy. For example, I was raped. Obviously, I didn't ask for this.
Mm-hmm.
But taking the ownership for what you can in your life, you may not have had ownership over, or you may not have been at fault for what happened to you, but you have complete responsibility for everything that happens after that. So if you allow that moment to break you and to hold you back from accomplishing what you're here to accomplish and from having a good life, then that ends up being on you, and it's hard to accept. But once you do, everything can change for you because you realize that even if it's hard and even if there's a lot of healing to be done, it's your responsibility to do that. It's up to you to take the first step and to kind of waddle through the swamp until you make it out into the sunshine. So I think just that level of ownership, taking responsibility for what you can and making a plan for what you would like your life to be. And then just take baby steps from that point on. Pick one little thing to do each day to move you towards your goal, even if the goal is just to be happy.
Melissa, if you have to give a message to a 16 years old Melissa, so what would you want to say to that young teenage girl who was just having pretty good life?
I think I would like to tell my younger self that this is one of my favorite books as well, but the title is so fitting. The obstacle is the way. I think that things happen in your life to be a mirror for the areas of growth that you need to go through. And so for me, I very much feel in line with my purpose, just in helping people to come to these realizations about their own power. I don't know if I would have felt so strongly about it had I not gone through the things that I've gone through. And so, like you said earlier, how people like to say, why me? I think I did that for quite a while. And I used that as an excuse for letting my life slip even further. Because I would say, well, it makes sense that I'm doing this. Look at all I've been through. And that is exactly the victim mentality. And it doesn't bring you any good. So the obstacle is the way. And to look at these things as an opportunity to grow instead of the rock that's going to bring me down.
The upcoming clip is from my interview with serial entrepreneur Avelo Roy. He talks about what most millennials don't understand about starting a business.
What do you think is the most millennials don't understand about entrepreneurship, and what's your advice to them?
Most millennials don't understand about the entrepreneurship is that they think they need investment to get started even. I receive all the time emails like, I don't have money, my parents are not rich, how will I get started with business? And my mantra is start with zero money, grow with your clients' money, and scale with investor money. So starting, you almost always, unless you're building cars or spaceships, you don't need investment. If you're building an app or if you're building anything, you can just draw it out on a cardboard. You can make a video. You can make a 3D printout. All of that can be learned on YouTube. All of that, you can actually do it for free. You can make a WordPress website in literally 2 hours. It doesn't cost you much. Anybody can afford it, right? You can even do it free. So starting with zero money, then do a validation. Build, okay, you have a big idea, but start small. Think big, start small, grow slow, then grow fast. You have a great idea that you want to change the world, fine. But start at a very small level that you can do with zero money. And then try to make money off of your customers. See, that validation, when people swipe their credit card or they pay you, that's the validation that, okay, there is a need in the market for what you're selling. Then you test the business model. You figure out, okay, what is the best business model for this? And once you figure out a repeatable business model, then you transition from startup to a business. And that's when you scale. That's when you raise funds. If you bring in the investor too early on, first of all, you will not get the funding. This is not 2015. 2015, people were throwing money at ideas. Today, people don't throw money at ideas. You got to show a proof of concept. So even if somebody does, come early on, they'll take 60 to 80% of your company because you have no valuation unless you're making money. So first make money, even if it is 25 rupees a day, if it is 100 rupees a day, make some money. Break down your big business, big idea into a small business, into a small idea. Start small, grow slow, make your mistakes, and then go to investor after you've proven that, look, I've already made the mistakes. I'm not going to play with your money and use you as a guinea pig. I'm not here to make, I will take care of your money, and your money is only going to be built to grow. Your money is going to grow because investors think from their perspective. What are they here for? They putting money in fixed deposit, you get 6.5%, 7%, not too much of a growth. Why are they putting in startups that are risky? Because it will grow by, they hope that it will grow by 100%, 200%, 1000%. So the more you can show them that this is how I will grow your money is not spent for my experiments. Your money is being spent to grow in marketing and sales. That's when you get the investment. And that's where most millennials don't understand that, look, investors' money is not your money. So don't play with it. Take it seriously. They're not here to do charity. They're here to do business. So don't give out too much of your equity either. Don't let them treat you like an employee. If you bring them in too early, they're going to take over majority share in the company and you're going to be an employee. And on the other hand, if you do whatever you can from friends, family, and fools, get a little bit of funding if you really need to, and then go to an investor, they see that you've done your hard work, you've put your skin in the game, you've experimented already, you've made your mistakes, now you're ready for it. And even if they want to steal your idea, they won't, because you're already ahead of the game. Investing in you is better than stealing the idea and doing it himself, right? So they'll be like, okay, he's already 6 months ahead in the game. Let me just invest in him and help him out and be his partner rather than steal his idea and do it myself. So from every sense, it makes sense to start with zero money, grow with your client's money, and scale with investor money.
Shalabh Sahai, founder of iVolunteer, talks about why failures are important in your life and his personal failures. Now let's talk about the failures. So you also organize through your organization first pro bono fuck up night in India, right? So where you guys talk about failures and why is failures important, number one, in everyone's life, and another is what are the biggest failures in your own life.
So I think the failures are extremely important simply because we learn from failures. If you look at a little child, it is when the child falls that the child learns how to walk. It is not possible to learn how to walk or how to cycle unless you fall. It's the same with skills. It's the same with experiences. It's the same with finding your own passion, your own rhythm when it comes to personal and professional life. So failure, I think, is extremely important to learn. The important element within failure is not to get bogged down by failure, not to find faults in the environment, not to kind of have a defeatist approach, but actually look for the silver line, look for the learnings, look for what not to do next time, look for how to do better next time, and find an opportunity that makes sense. So I think it is when we have the right attitude and we learn from our failures that failures become a stepping ladder to success for us. So that's where I think the failures are extremely important. When I look at my own journey, I think there are small and large failures. But if I were to go back, really back, when I finished my school, standard 12th, I was pretty good at studies, at academics. And I had, again, just like most of the typical Indians, I had a one-track mind of becoming an engineer because I was good in mathematics and physics. Everybody around me, my schoolmates, my teachers, my family expected me to become an engineer. As luck would have it, my 11th and 12th were in an army school, an army public school. And most of my friends and batchmates were appearing for the National Defense Academy examination, and I actually appeared for that examination. And incidentally, this was again accidental, which is why my belief is so much in accidents. I got selected to become an Air Force cadet at the National Defense Academy, and I joined the National Defense Academy as an Air Force cadet, because of which I didn't appear for the engineering examinations. But as luck would have it, I think after 1.5 years, I suffered some dislocation during training of my shoulder, because of which I had to medically be boarded out, and I came back. And I was close to wasting almost 2 years of my career or my academic life, and I didn't know what to do next. And I think I treated that as a basic failure for me, that I didn't choose the line that I wanted to. I chose a line and I didn't succeed over there, and I was back to being nowhere. That is also a very big downtime in my life. But I think my school principal, who I met during those days, said a number of things to me, but the one typical line that I remember from it is that consider it a blessing in disguise. This gives you a chance to look for something that you're really passionate about and go out and do it. And I think it is during that time, like I said, that I was appearing for so many different examinations and exploring so many different career options, that somewhere within me, I found a calling to this particular institute, and that changed the direction of my entire life. So I think that what I treated as a failure at that time of, not choosing engineering as a profession or not being successful at the National Defense Academy led me to choose a career, to choose a profession that I'm extremely grateful for and extremely proud of. So I think that was very early in my life. If I roll it down much later, in fact, somewhere midway after we had founded iVolunteer, like I said, that the original dream was to become a monster.com or a naukri.com of the volunteering world, basically establish a volunteering platform that would use technology to bring volunteers and nonprofits together. This was in 2002. But the failure that we had as an organization at that time was that we didn't understand where will the volunteers come from and where will the nonprofits come from. Most of the nonprofits that were registering on our platform and giving us their volunteer requirements were actually not based in metros. Whereas most of the volunteers or most of the people who were predisposed to volunteering and were coming onto our platform were actually all based in metros. Most of the volunteers in that time in 2002 were accessing internet from their offices, which meant that they were working professionals. So most of our volunteers were working professionals, whereas, which meant that actually they had less of time and more of skills to give. But most of our nonprofits, because they were based in the rural areas, they couldn't use these skills from a distance They were not used to using internet as much. Also, there was a cultural work gap in terms of work culture. Businesses function very differently, and the volunteers had very different expectations. NGOs work very differently. They had very different expectations. This expectation mismatch was a huge thing. So I think the entire technology initiative in the first 2 years for us showed us a big dream and had a big traction in terms of getting early advantage of attracting early volunteers and early nonprofit adopters. But in the final impact, in the final outcome of making the right match and getting volunteering done on the ground, we failed. This happened in the first 2 years. And this failure led us to actually chart a different path and a different growth for the organization, where we decided and we learned that we need to handhold the nonprofits. We need to handhold the volunteers and thus make volunteering work. So we had a lot of role to play in building the market and not just serving the market through a platform. So I think that was a very early failure for us as well.
The last one for this episode is from Dorothy Anne. She has launched her own EP music album through crowdfunding. She shares her ideas on crowdfunding success.
Well, my husband and I actually put together a webinar called 7 Secrets to Successful Crowdfunding. And some of the tips that we share in it are to have a good short video. A lot of people have a video that is not very concise and to the point. And so I would say that, really work on a video that has all the details that you need in a short amount of time. Nowadays, people's attention span is so short. So you really have to get them within the first minute or two. And you don't want to make a long 10-minute plea. Just make it a short 3, not even 5 minutes. Just, I would say 3 to 4 minute video that's well done, but has all the points that you need. Answer the question why. Why should people support you? What's in it for them? And make sure the call to action is clear. Sometimes people say, I would appreciate you to share this on Facebook. Well, sharing is good and it's good for traction, but you really want to ask people, I'd appreciate it. Could you please donate towards this cause? And then, of course, ask for specific amounts in the perks. And then a lot of times people put a dozen perks, like a dozen bonuses, like if you give $50, then you get this, or if you give $100, you give this. And there's so many that they'll do, a dozen perks when really 5-7 perks is sufficient. Mm-hmm. And the most popular amount, I believe, is around $50. So make sure your $50 perk is the perk that's most appealing, because on average, the $50 perk is what people gravitate towards. Mm-hmm. So those are just a few of our tips. One of the other ones is have a team. True. You can't do anything by yourself. I mean, you can get things started by yourself, but if you have a team of people to help you to get on board, that's really important. And you just simply reach out to people specific that they have a heart for you and they want to see you succeed. Just get them on board. These people will be the first ones to donate to you. Mm-hmm. You have to ask them before. You don't want to wait till your campaign is launched to ask people. True. You want to ask people a month or two before and have all these things lined up. So it's a lot of preparation. That's the key, preparation for successful crowdfunding.
That's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the Best of the Inspiring Talk podcast. If you did, make sure to share this with your friends by visiting theinspiringtalk.com/4949. And if you have not yet subscribed to the show, make sure that you do. And if you have already subscribed, do leave a review on what you think about this show and hopefully give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next. Now, go out there and do something inspired.